Hey, Tanisha.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I'm fantastic. Hey, Kristen. How are you?
Hey, Tracy. I'm good. I'm good.
Good, good, good. So, ladies, do you want to introduce yourselves to our audience? Tanisha, why don't we let Kristen go first since you are a resident here and she's our guest?
Of course.
Yay. Okay, thanks. I am Kristen Langhoff Grannan. I live in San Francisco, California. I'm the last year of the baby boomers, but I am officially a baby boomer. But, you know, I'm
Are you
also
trying to tell us that you're young?
yeah,
Is that
I'm
what you're trying to
young.
tell
I'm
us?
young. I'm young. Oh my God. No, I just, it's funny. I grew up in Indiana and in Indiana, like, I feel like we were like a decade behind everything. So I
Mhm.
missed all the baby boomer action, but that was my growing up. And I'm here. I used to be a journalist. Now I host a podcast called Raw Female, which takes a unfiltered and honest look at the female midlife experience. Yeah, I've got a husband that I've had forever. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But he has been hanging around a long time. I got two kids and I have two grandkids.
Awesome. Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome, awesome. And so you're considering keeping that husband, sounds like?
I feel like I'm in it to win it. So I feel like I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm hanging on. He was, you
All
saw
right.
him with tech support. He comes in handy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
So,
looks useful.
yeah.
He seems very
Yeah.
useful.
Yeah, totally. That's the bar right now. How useful is this person?
Well, welcome,
Who knows?
Kristen,
Yeah.
and love having you on. And
Yes.
did you mention your podcast?
Oh yeah, Raw Female. I did. We
Awesome.
finished season 1. We're about to launch season 2. It comes with a newsletter. Yeah, super fun. That's how I met you, Tracy.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yes, Kristen's podcast is a ton of fun. You will find that she is a wild character out here talking about things that really aren't typically considered polite dinner conversations.
No, we are destigmatizing.
Right.
That's what we're
She
doing.
definitely is. She
Destigmatizing
definitely is.
these conversations. Yes.
It's
But
a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have a diverse listening audience.
Yeah.
From trucker dudes, gay guys. My mother will not, recommend it to her friends. Which is like a big thing.
That's
but
key.
Yeah.
That's key for anybody considering listening to Raw Female. Her mother will not recommend it.
So that means you should listen. That means you should listen to it.
You should listen. Meanwhile, her friends are coming up to me like I'm an authority on pelvic health and urinary incontinence. So I don't know. Anyway, I digress.
Clearly, they're listening to it.
Yeah. Oh my God.
All right, T. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Tenisha Tate Austin, an African American woman. I am a Gen Xer. I live in Marin City, California, which is in Northern California, North Bay. I am an educational consultant, a married woman. I'm still trying to decide if I'm going to keep mine around or not. But
he's definitely a keeper.
Yeah.
He's mostly good. He's mostly good. And I'm a mother of 2. I have a college student and a freshman in high school.
Awesome.
That'll do it to
very,
you. Right
very
there.
busy
Yes,
life.
for sure.
And T is our Gen X Guest-in-Residence. And so she comes on to give that perspective on Auntie Talks and Listens from the Gen X generation and helps us to learn and share with each other. And she tries to keep me in check. We just had a bit of a tiff before we got started.
It involved a tiara. I'm just going to say, I don't know if that's the tiff that you're talking about, but I like that whole thing.
Because there were several.
Yeah. They, I mean, talk about, they got it going on these 2.
we have a very spirited, loving relationship, is how I would describe it. So, ladies, in honor of Mother's Day, I was thinking about how I was raised when I was out in the wild and saw some children interacting with their parents in ways that I was impressed with, and not positively so.
Oh.
And so,
Okay, I want to hear about this. You were appalled.
This relationship seems very informal, and I'm all about love and open communication. And I was raised very differently than I think kids are being raised today. And so I wondered, do you, Tenisha and Kristen, when raising children, think that you should be acting as a friend with your children? And what did your moms do with you?
Well, I can jump right to what my parents did because, you know, I have outgoing, you know, fun adult parents, but I remember specifically asking them, crying actually, and saying, I want you to be my friend. And I remember my dad and in fact, they presented such a united front that I don't know which one of them told me, oh, we are not your friends. Yeah. And that cut me because I think what I would have loved to say, what I would have loved to hear them ask me is, what about a friend do you want from me? Because, you know, this whole peer parent spectrum is, you know, loaded with all of these attributes, right? Like, you know, and these sort of interactions. There's interactions of respect, interactions of vulnerability, interactions of control. Like there's all of these things, right? You know, friendships don't typically have a power dynamic. And that's what I wasn't asking my parents not to have power over me. At that time, I remember wanting them to have the vulnerability of a friend so I could enter a relationship with them that I felt more safe in. And I remember that.
And was their parenting style more authoritative?
Yeah.
It was.
They were more authoritative, and the concept of reasoning, like they thought we had to be very, very old to be able to reason. And I remember my dad kept saying, the age of reason, the age of reason. And I was like, wait, I'm
a thinking person, right? I'm a thinking person.
Thinking, and you know, and now looking back at myself as a child, I was a fairly thinking person, but that just was, you know, it was sort of interesting that way for me.
You know what though, Kristen, I think that was typical of our generation, and actually,
totally.
Actually, that parenting style is called authoritarian, which is demanding and strict. My way or the highway, right? It's like, this is the way it is, right?
Although I have to say, my parents were very personable. Like they were very fun. Like they were fun. Like we would laugh. But when it came to a decision that needed to be made, it was their way. There wasn't a lot of room for negotiation. At least that was my feeling. That was my feeling growing up, that there wasn't like, let's explore this kind of thing, you know.
And what about you, T? How were you brought up?
That's so interesting because I feel like my parents were probably authoritarian as well. And so my mom is your generation, right? And so she raised me probably similar to the way that she was raised. So it was definitely like she still like expects for me to listen to what she says to do, like right now. And I'm grown.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
So yeah.
I actually think that may be cultural though.
For
in some respects, right?
I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
interesting.
You know, if I think about, just so that we have almost a representation of 3 generations, baby boomer, X, and then silent. My mother was 100% authoritarian. And the challenge with that, it was that I was not a child that related to that at all. Not at all. I mean, and it wasn't almost like she had no sense that I need to adjust for this particular child. And so we were in constant battle, because I just could not understand this idea that I would do something simply because anybody just said that. I could not understand that. And so it really represented a problem. And I do think that, though, there are some cultural aspects of that, because I do know in the Black community, a lot of parents still with their adult children think that, oh, because I said it, that's what you should be doing, which is ludicrous. To me, you've raised a person who, hopefully you have empowered them with the ability to think on their own, to make decisions on their own. So why would you think that you still need to have that level of control?
I want to pipe in because from a intellectual standpoint, right? Or from an intellectual standpoint, you're like, why would you think you should still have that level of control? I think it comes from like an emotional standpoint. And obviously I don't agree with it, but I understand it. I think it's like, I think it's cultural, and I think has something to do with like the passed down traumas that have come from, being African American in this country, having to like take care of your kids, making sure that you were strict and hard so that they were prepared for life. All the way going back to like slavery and how mothers had to parent their children. So I think there's like that thread of trauma that's still present even today, and I will say even in my parenting.
Well, you know what? So this is why I love having Tenisha on the show. So, number one, she has a master's degree in social work. And by the way, I'm known for bragging on the children. I might not try to tell the children what to do anymore, but I do brag. Right? So she has a master's degree in social work from UCLA, and she always brings this, how shall I say, not just personal experience, but really the actual learned experience from her studies. And so what I really hear you saying, Tenisha, that intellectually on some level I know, but I really hadn't thought about, is for African American parents, a lot of times it's a safety issue.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
It's a safety issue. It is about saying that I am telling you these things, that I want you to behave in this way and toe this line and not question, because I have seen very negative impacts for people like us when they questioned. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask a question on how
Please
that
do.
then impacts, like, how does that impact you, Tenisha, now as a mother? If your mother, and did you say that your mother is still, has that vibe of trying to control, or she's let it go? Because the difference, like my mother, who was raised by a very tough and loving Italian immigrant, mother. My mother's did kind of, as the years went by, let it go. So, and that, obviously gives you a little bit of a freedom situation, but how did, or, sense of freedom, but how does that play out in your life now?
I think, well, it's not the same as it was when I was a kid, right? Like, so obviously as a teenager or a young adult, there was a lot more of, you need to do what I tell you to do. But there still is this, she doesn't like expect for me to do it, but but she would want for me to do it. So there's still that like expectation, or there's still that like desire that if I mention something that you should do it because I'm your mother. But it's not like she can hold me accountable or she can make me. So it's different. It's different in that way. It's interesting because as a parent, I try to be, I try to be a little bit more like in relationship, but I'm definitely still probably, I wouldn't say authoritarian, probably authoritative, is probably my style. I definitely have a lot of my mom's parenting style. I would say me and my, because the question is, are you friends with your kids? And so my answer to that is hell to the no. I'm not, I am not friends with them. But I will say I'm probably their associate. So like you have friends and you have associates. I feel like I joke with them. I do more explaining of like how I'm thinking versus like, because I told you so. Sometimes though, when my son asks me why, oh my God, sometimes I'm just like, because I told you so. Like, don't keep asking me why.
I've heard you say that, and I get upset when you say that to him.
Well, because I've probably explained already. He wants to negotiate. That brother is a negotiator, and so
is he the younger or the older?
He's the younger.
He's younger. Okay.
Yeah. And so I want him to have that skill, right, for business, but not with me. Like I don't want you to have that skill with me. If I'm telling you to do something, although he has like brought up some good points in some situations that I've had to consider, like, oh, okay. But I didn't let him know that they were good points. But yes, I would say I'm not friends with my kids. My mom's parenting style, my dad's parenting style, definitely the two of their styles together definitely has impacted my parenting. But me, I would say me. I feel like I do have like, I want my kids to be vulnerable. I want my kids to come to me. I want my kids to be able to talk to me. So I do try to have that open door around our relationship.
What about you, Kristen? Are you friends?
Yeah, so similar.
Were you friends raising them?
Well, were we? Yeah. No. Although I wasn't. No. Because I think as long as there is going to be this power dynamic, there is gonna be. It's not gonna be like a friendship. I mean, if we want to define what friendship is, but just usually in friendships there aren't power dynamics like there are. Having said that, I like Tenisha. I diluted my parents' style down quite a bit. I thought it was important because I thought it was important to explain and reason and to talk about why and to kind of, just because that's what I felt like was missing for me. And I also felt like for me, it was very important that they saw my vulnerabilities as well and Dave's. And our relationship vulnerabilities, just if I was feeling nervous or, I felt like that was important. That said, it's funny. I talk to my daughter now about, like, she's not a parent yet. But, I said, I was parenting from a place of fear. And she goes, you were? It didn't feel that way. And I said, yeah. She goes, you were more of like a type A parent. I go, yeah, that was the fear talking. I mean, that was, that's how my fear manifested, being so detail driven about the parenting that it was suffocating for them. And so there was that. And then there was also, can we curse on this? I don't know.
100%. Are you kidding?
Okay. There was the
potty mouth.
Okay. There was the fuck story that this is how I screwed up my kids.
Yeah.
There was this concept of a must do in our house, but and so all my kids wanted to know from me, is this a must do? Like,
I love that though.
The Kellys invited us over for dinner. And they'd look at me, is this a must do? And I'd be like, would you want to go? And they'd go, well, is it a must do? And I'd be like, really what I wanted them to say is, yes, I want to go.
Of course.
But I don't want to make it a must do. I want them to come to the conclusion that they actually want to go.
Right. This is a good thing.
No.
Yeah. This haunted our relationship because it was very confusing to them. Because I would never say it's a must do. I would want them to come to that. So it was a lot of talking to get them to that. And that wasn't really respecting their desire. Like it was just fuck them up.
But you know what? But here's the thing. I like that if you enforce it, allowing them to actually be able to say, I don't want to go over there. I mean, I don't even like them, right?
Yeah.
And you'd be like, okay, all right. So that means Dad and I are going to go alone. And, I guess I'll just tell them that you weren't up to going. You're comfortable with that? I'm not going to cover for you and say you had a bellyache or whatever it is.
So that's what...
Right?
That's what I would put it back to them. Are you comfortable? Is that really the decision? And I did the same with grades. I was like, okay, well, if you did this, I'm sure you'd have time to get these grades. But, if you do this and you do that, then
you were a waffler. You were a waffler.
No. And I said to them, so you can decide what grades you want to get. I mean, they knew that there was a bar, but I did. And Sydney was like, oh, geez, Mom, I just feel guilty all the time because I know what you want me to do.
Right.
So it wasn't that I was waffling. It's that I really wanted them to make the decisions that I wanted to make them to make, but I wanted them to come to it on themselves. And that, I just do not think that, except, and I don't mean to be hogging the mic here, and I will shut down after this comment, but there were certain things that I was totally authoritarian on. Yeah. There were certain things so I was authoritarian on no, and judge me, whatever. No sex in the house when you're in high school. I just wasn't into that. Okay. So that was number one. Also drugs. I just look at you. Tanisha's like, but I just wasn't into that.
I just said where it is.
When you go to college, do it wherever you want. But when you're, in high school, no sex in my house. Okay. Then I was like, no drugs. And that even goes for pot. I'm not going to smoke pot with you. I want you to put all of that in college. Those are what your college years are for. And,
smoking pot and having sex.
And sex. I just don't
get your party on.
And exactly. And then I was and college was non-negotiable. Those were my three things. I was like, And I did go we're not even going to debate these. We could debate it, but
so those really were
those
right.
Were
those were your must do's,
right?
Those were your must do's, right? The rest of them were and so you definitely your style was authoritative in that you set expectations, but you allowed them to be involved in the discussion of the decision making, and it was possible that you could change your mind, right?
I felt like they felt like I could.
Yeah, they felt like she could. I don't know if she could.
Yeah.
She had tricked them to think that she could.
There was, but I don't know if this adds any light to the conversation. But when Zach, my son, who's now 31, was in college, he got me a book called Emotional Blackmail. And he goes, Mom, I think we should read this together.
His professor introduced him to that.
Right. Yeah. What'd you say?
His professor introduced him to that.
Oh,
so your money paid for your exposure.
Totally. And at high school graduation, he gave me a book called Letting Go.
So he had your same parenting style. He was gonna give you the information and hoping that you got to the understanding that he wanted you to get to.
Tenisha, very wise seeing that. Yeah. No, it's so true.
He was like, basically, open this book. Your picture is on page 32.
I know. And my girlfriends were like aghast about the emotional blackmail. And I was like, I get it.
Yeah, he's right.
I get this whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's interesting because thinking about this whole idea of, my mom was very authoritarian. My father was somewhere between authoritative and permissive. And as you can imagine, that made me a daddy's girl.
Well, I was going to say, so how did you handle that, Tracy? Because when there's a united front, it's pretty clear. But when you got that going, how did that play out?
And they were divorced. So it was definitely challenging. But I will say, though, as I think about, my mom and her authoritarian style, it definitely wasn't a fit for me. But my father's style did create some problems for me as an adult, and especially when I went into the workplace, because even to this day, I was raised by my father to think that everyone was interested in my opinion. And so it was unclear to me why I wouldn't say what I was thinking. I mean, to the point of things like, in a consulting firm saying things like, in a meeting with partners saying, well, that's not true what you're saying. I mean, that's a hell no to say that in that environment. But I would say that isn't true. That can't be true. And it wasn't meant to be disrespectful. It was like, you're saying something that's dishonest or not accurate. And we need to understand why you're saying that. I didn't have the sense that that was not an okay thing to do. And it was really because of my father. And my father had taught me that my opinion was important and that he was interested in hearing it. So I confused that with people are interested in what I think. Right.
Yeah, but Tracy, couldn't you also say that your dad really did you a service as a woman? I mean, as a woman, I'm almost rather would default to working on taking it back rather than working on putting yourself out there, because I do feel like that's a service for you.
I don't disagree with that, Kristen, but I'm going to be honest with you. I was a slow learner on it. I'm pulling it back.
That may have more to do with you, though.
Right, I was a slow learner. I'm pulling it back.
It was, And
let me tell you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, T.
So I was saying, do you feel like your father going back and forth between being permissive and authoritative caused like some cognitive dissonance for you? And that would have been better if he would have been consistent in his parenting style.
I think it would have been better if he had been authoritative. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it served me well that he was so permissive, because I'm not kidding you. I did not have a sense at all that the questions I would ask in a corporate environment or the things that I would challenge, I had no sense. And people would always say, wow, you're so tough and whatever. And I think, I'm not doing anything, but you guys should be asking the same questions. They're saying things that are ridiculous, or there's no way we're going to accomplish that. You should be asking the same questions. And I do think, while I had a very successful career, I do think that if I had learned to finesse that a little bit better, I would have pissed a lot fewer people off. I mean, definitely. And when I say I was a slow learner, I'm saying it's become apparent to me since I retired. Okay, so I didn't even go through it.
Yeah.
The aha moments have been, while lying on the sofa now, thinking, oh my God, did I say that? What in the world? Right? Yeah. I mean, I'm not
It's
even,
interesting.
I'll be honest. I'm not even sure how I got away with some of the stuff I did. I don't know. I really don't know. And it was never meant to be disrespectful. I thought,
Yeah.
what's happening here? You guys aren't being
Well,
honest.
well, I think this brings up a really good point, a very interesting point about parenting and how that impacts you in your adulting and how it impacts you in the workforce. And I don't know that people think about how their parenting style is going to impact their kids being able to like interact on a job. I think about it all the time.
Yeah,
And
you do.
me and my husband have very different parenting styles. He's definitely more permissive. And so
Mm-hmm.
clearly the
Mm-hmm.
kids like him better. But I think I think I hope it doesn't take them to get to retirement, but I hope they'll realize one day like, oh no, but she had it like together. Like she understood, like she had the vision, she made us responsible. That's why I have like this account or I have this set up for myself because how you parent your kids impact their ability to like take feedback in the
Yeah.
workplace, right? Like
Yeah.
if you've never
Yeah.
received any feedback, any negative feedback other than you're great, you're fantastic, what are you going to do when you get your first evaluation that says you need to work on this? Have a breakdown, right?
Yeah.
So I think like you bring up a good point around like your parenting style will impact your kids' ability to like navigate through college, uh, to navigate in the workforce because some college professors complain about how students' parents are still writing them emails
Yes.
about like their child's grade because the kid has
Yes.
never learned how to navigate that on their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also like having authoritarian parents, and I feel like my parents were somewhere between like authoritarian and authoritative, maybe a little bit, I don't know.
Yeah.
But do you think that also, like, for me it's hard to separate. I know that I had a struggle with like speaking truth to power because I
Mm,
think if you are really like if you grow up in this authoritarian, kind of environment, I just wonder if that happens sometimes, or is it really the
mm,
I
kid like
do.
Tracy? I mean, like, you were very strong, right, as a
Mm-hmm.
kid, like you were
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
pushing back,
Unfortunately.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So right,
Mm-hmm.
whereas I think what I ended up doing is just kind of not trying any, like not putting myself in these positions of upset
Mm-hmm.
until
Mm-hmm.
I finally had to. Like, I don't know. And I don't think that serves me either as an
mm.
Yeah.
adult.
No,
Serves me, as an adult.
I get it. So for the
Yeah.
listeners and those watching on YouTube, probably should have done this in the beginning, but there are three parenting styles: the authoritarian, which is demanding, strict, and my way or the highway. So basically, there's no negotiating. I'm not interested in your perspective. None of that. There is authoritative, where the parents set expectations and hold the children accountable, but explain their reasoning. So there is the opportunity for that dialogue, and for the kid to be able to say, well, how about this? Can we meet in the middle? There is room for, I personally think that teaches kids, negotiating skills. It teaches them how to advocate for themselves. And so for me, that seems the most reasonable. There's permissive, which is very loving, but does not enforce the rules. And I'll be honest, that really was probably more my dad. I mean, Lord knows he was not really enforcing any rules. And then there's uninvolved, which nobody is aspiring to be, which is absent and withdrawn. And so, I agree with Kristen that there is a downfall in the authoritarian, and that I don't think you teach your children to advocate for themselves with that. I don't, I don't think you teach them about negotiating, which, we all want them to be able to do. And that is not being authoritative where you were setting expectations, but explaining your reasoning. That doesn't mean you're being their friend. That means that you're explaining the why to them and you're open to dialogue. And, I think those are wonderful skills to teach our kids. So
I think so too. And I think if you're looking at that, it's a spectrum again, right?
Yes.
So that I may think that my parents were maybe authoritarian, but compared to maybe their parents, they are more authoritative in their minds. Like that was the leap that they feel like they made. So it's so, it's super interesting.
I love that thinking, because I would be curious to ask my kids.
Oh, we got to have you ask them.
I think I'm 90% of the time authoritative. And probably 10% of the time authoritarian, or maybe 20% of the time. They probably would say 100% of the time I'm authoritarian, because to them I'm strict. To them I have all these rules. To them I have all these expectations. Like I don't there's no way in hell you're having sex in my house. First of all,
probably 42. But probably 42. She doesn't want them having sex in the house.
No, you don't pay these bills. You don't pay these bills. You don't get to do what adults do in my house. I don't even want. You're not even having your partner in my bed in the bedroom. Like that's not even no. You're not having sex in my house. You're not doing drugs.
Okay, can I ask? Wait, let me back up. Let me back up. Okay, so I get both of you said not in high school. Yeah. Kristen said she advised her kids, when you go to college, get your party on.
All bets are off. I mean, I needed that for me, for my sanity. Like, woo, this is push this down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But at what age, Tenisha, are they able to
have sex in my house?
At what age?
Never.
Okay.
Never.
Okay, but until married, is that basically what you're thinking?
Never. I don't understand. I don't understand what you're saying.
Oh my God. I kind of feel like once you tell your kid you can't have sex in my house when you're in high school, it goes in there, and talk about a stigma. They're like, sex, house, mom, bad. And so then in high school, in college, they don't even think they're going in that, wading into that. They don't know what I'm capable of. They do not know what I'm capable of. Condom bowls in the guest room. I mean,
there's multiple layers to that. One, there's I just feel like kids should not be adulting, shouldn't do adult things if they're not adult. So I feel like you should have to pay for you should make your own sexual experiences happen if you're in high school.
Wait. When you say that, are you saying that you don't plan to provide Kyron with condoms?
No. That's not what I'm saying at all. No, of course.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Listen.
Because Auntie was getting ready to send him a case.
We've already had those conversations. Yeah. We've already had, Paul's had those conversations with him. We've had those conversations. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that it's not going to be on my dime, and it's not going to be in my space, right? So if you feel that, if you feel the need to make it happen, I would prefer for you to wait. But if you feel the need to make it happen, it will not be on my time, my dime, or my space. And so the other layer of that too is this house is small. You're not about to, that's just disgusting to me.
Can I tell you something else, Tenisha? Can I just dovetail on what you're saying?
There is not a West Wing and an East Wing. So.
Well, how
Yes,
about,
please.
okay, and now I'm going to throw some shade on some parents. So how about the high school parents that are like, well, I don't want them doing it in a car. Yeah. It's like, I do. I mean, that's why you want them doing it in your house, because you don't want them doing it in the car.
Make them work for it. Make them work for it.
Do it in a car. Empty lot. Motel 6.
Make them work for it. Yes.
I'm making it easy to let me change the sheets for you and put some cigarettes by your bed for the
post-coital.
Yeah, post-coital. That's a big word for me to say. But yeah, I'm with Tenisha on that. Like, I'm like, I don't need to make it. Yeah.
It's not making it easy.
Yeah. Well, look, parenting is not, I'll give you a story about the parenting thing, about how, like, you kind of, like, you don't, like, you're just making, like, you have this vision of the kind of parent you are. But I'll take Sydney, my daughter at 16, super squared away. Like, she was just like, she was very, like, self-knowing and mature, seemed like to me. So 16. So there wasn't a whole lot of discipline I needed to do. She was like, wind her up, and she was very busy. Debate, newspaper, basketball, like whatever. She was doing it all, right? So I come into her room one night and she's friggin' smoking. I'm like,
in the house?
In the house. Oh yeah. She's smoking out the window. Like, but
here's the thing. You never said to her, the must do is to not smoke.
No smoking.
You said cigarettes. You said drugs.
I didn't even think she'd be stupid enough to smoke. So I walk in, and instead of being like, what the F is going on? I go, Sydney, what are you doing? You got to cut that out. You smoke? I literally talked to her like a friend. You smoke? Cut that out. And I leave the room. So then 3 nights later, I go in. She's doing it again. I go,
of course.
Sydney, I told you, like, what are you doing? She goes, Mom, now's the time that you take the packet of cigarettes away from me. I'm like, oh yeah. The authoritative mom, just like, I'm like, okay, give those to me.
Oh God,
yeah.
I love it.
So it's like you're trying to set a tone, but sometimes there are these total, like, blips that happen that you're like, what kind of parent am I here?
I will say this though too about thinking that you've got a kid who's got it together, and that kid just wouldn't do certain things because you can see they're self-motivated. They do what they're supposed to do. They're, active and involved. Right. And yet
you might be
surprised. They're kids. I mean, my father had a night that he referred to as my 3 felonies, and I was student body president. I was a cheerleader. I was, a grade president, the whole thing. And yet, one night, I decided with a group of my friends that we were going to take their parents' car because their parents were out for the evening and drive to a party. And we were going to have a couple of beers before, en route. And we had the beers, we smoked cigarettes. I drove the car. I had no license. I hit a parked car and then drove the car back and parked it as a parent. Now,
nicely done.
The
entire passenger side of the car was concave. So I'm not, yeah.
Right. And so you're so smart, right? You have all these accolades.
I would have done that.
But forget like the fact that maybe we thought you wouldn't have done it. But when you did it, you drove the car back and parked it like nobody would notice that it was crashed. Because your brain isn't fully developed, right?
It's not.
So you're thinking somehow you're going to be able to get away with this. And
Right.
I just don't understand why parents, like, I don't care how smart the kid is or book smart or studious. I don't put anything past them. Like, I just don't put anything past them.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
kids.
No, totally.
At the end of the day, you cannot be their friend. You cannot be their friend while you are raising them.
No.
You cannot be their friend. You can't.
Although you can. I do think there are ways to tap into friendship qualities.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
They're associates sometimes. You're their associates sometimes. I think that's what I was trying to say earlier.
Yeah.
Like when you say friendship qualities, though, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, like they can feel like you have their back, like you're their ally.
Agree.
Like these aren't all like mutually exclusive, right?
I agree.
You can respect them. That's the other thing that like really shocks me with some parenting styles is this total, like this lack of respect, the way they talk to each other, the way the parents talk to, it starts with the kid talking to the parent a certain way. And then the parent, like it gets, now to me, that's more of a friendship thing. You know, when you have it out with your friends and you're like losing it and you're saying dumb stuff. Well, that's what I can see happening in,
I agree
with some parenting. And
it's interesting. I feel like my mom was authoritarian, but I never felt like she was out of control. I felt like she was in control, like, and that she just had these expectations. She was very strict though. Like we couldn't even listen to secular music in the house. Like, in her car, she definitely was listening to gospel music, and there was like lots and lots of rules. I couldn't like go to parties, lots of things. But also too, I didn't have the good angel and the bad angel on my shoulder, because my dad always, like, whatever my mom said, he supported, even though they were divorced as well. For sure united was front. Like a united front. So
at what age do you think you can start being friends with your children? Because Kristen, your kids are adults now. So would you say you're friends with them now?
Yeah, I gotta say, yes, I do. I feel like my daughter, it took our 20s because what ended up happening is she had a very heightened sense of wanting to, make sure that I emotionally was okay, which is really sweet. Wow. And I don't, as a woman, I don't want her to feel that burden.
Right. Sure.
Right? So like when she was a teen, she used to go to my husband and totally bitch about me, like, because she didn't want to hurt my feelings. And I'm like, yeah. And so Dave and I had very different experiences of Sydney. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so I needed to give her some space in her 20s to be able to like unhitch from me a little bit in that way. And I had to keep telling her, I'm good. I mean, I've always felt good. Like there was some vibe there that was created. So now I feel like there isn't a power differential between us. But I do like being her parent. So I guess, yes. So I feel like it's there. I don't know if that answers your question. With my son, it was less of a gradual letting go and evolution. And it was more, I feel like, I'd be interested in asking him. I feel like it was more of a, like, okay, now I'm an adult. Because also he got married and had kids, but I said
he gave you the book.
He gave me the book. Look, he has been spoon feeding me. He has been spoon feeding me. And he also said this was like a couple of years ago, I think, maybe a year and a half ago, whatever, maybe before his kids. I said, Zach, I don't want you to feel like I mean this when I say this, but blah, blah, blah. And he goes, He goes, Mom, I got all the mother stuff figured out. Like, there's nothing you can do to me anymore.
You're done.
And I'm like, okay. So I gotta say, I relish this time now.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like
special.
I can be an advisor.
Yeah.
You know, I think they see me, I could be, you know, they see me as a more full formed human, not just a mother, but I could still be the mother. You know.
Do you give unsolicited advice?
Oh God, yes. Are you kidding me? I try not to, but my knee-jerk reaction is to do that. And the other thing I did, and now I'm really going astray, but when they have their kid, so the other day I was reading this, what every grandparent shouldn't do. There was this column that popped in my inbox. I'm like, let me just open this because I'm a perfect grandma. I got all this nails. And at the bottom was, don't rearrange your kids' pantry. I'm still, after 7 years, finding stuff from when my mom did that. And I texted Zach immediately and I clipped it and I sent it to him. I go, Zach, not only, I rearranged their whole pantry.
You did not.
Oh, yeah. When she had her baby.
You did not.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I am
you
that.
Did not.
Yeah. And I said to him, I go, Zach, I'm mortified. I am so sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So boundary issues as a grandmother. So I'm still working on that.
That's mother-in-law boundary.
I think that with the kids, because my dad definitely was my friend. I feel like in college, like it was
really?
like you're because they had me when they were young, and so I think by the time I became an adult, they were like, he was like, you're an adult. You're going to college, you're doing things, you know, you're doing all the things I expect for you to do. I think my expectation is a little bit more higher than that, being the next generation. I expect for them to go to college, and that's not enough for me. And so I think that once they become a little bit more, once they start to behave like adults, I will treat you like an adult. That's what I mean by, like, if I'm not saying I won't have any financial responsibility for you. Obviously, I'm going to pay for some things, but if you're still dependent on me to take care of you, then we're not in that friendships situation yet.
Okay.
But once they are paying for their own Netflix account, does that really turn them into friends and adults?
I'm talking about, like,
see that when I signed up for Netflix, it didn't say that.
I'm saying when they're paying, like, I'm not paying for college, I'm not paying your car note, I'm not paying your rent, I'm not paying, like, you have a full-time job, you are adulting, you're making good choices, you know how to manage your money, like, then I can see you as like an adult where we can be more friends. But until then, I'm gonna kind of still try to guide you so that so that you have everything you need by this, when, you know, at some point I want you to have everything that you need. I want you to be able to take care of all these things on your own.
Yeah.
I think that may be how each of us defines when the child or is adulting, is whatever your values are, when they are in alignment with what your values are as an adult, as a person who is, you know, a contributing member of society, behaving in a way that is age appropriate. I think that's probably what defines and helps shape your ability to treat them less like you are the mommy, for lack of a better way to put it, and more like, I am your mother, in that I will always love you and always be here for you. But I trust that you got this now. You got this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe not your pantry, but you know.
This pantry could be so much better. But I feel like, I do feel like, you know, for me, it's like, oh, do you, you know, is the way you're thinking about things, you know, do you have a process that you're filtering life through that's working for you? Yay.
Yes.
You're an adult. I mean, that's healthy.
Yeah.
Yay, you're an adult.
Yep. I agree.
We can meet you there.
So I'm going to close this up, ladies. I always like to think about wisdom shared and lessons learned. And I think one thing that we can, that I heard us saying is, number one, parenting styles can be cultural. Sometimes what feels like too strict of a hand, the authoritarian parent or Tyrian parent is coming from a perspective of trying to ensure safety. I think I heard that children are sometimes trying to parent their parents, giving out books. Right?
Love it.
That there definitely are a couple things we agreed on. No sex in the house. Okay.
When you're in high school.
When you're in high school.
No, well, T
cut off,
has it.
right?
Tanisha's like, whoa, those kids are, no. For me, I just did the high school thing.
Period.
Right? And that the kids parenting parents comes in all kinds of shapes and fashions. Some are handing out books. Some are saying, giving direct advice and saying, now is when you might want to take away the cigarettes. Okay, right? You should do that right now, right?
Well, I sound like a very permissive parent.
You weren't.
I'm really making myself.
No, I think you did. Well, I don't get that at all. But I think you were. It's clear that you were a thoughtful parent, though, that you just weren't on autopilot with, this is the way I'm going to do it, but that you were thinking about those particular children you were raising. So
yeah,
I think that's awesome. And I have one more, and now it has escaped me. I think more than anything, we all agreed, though, that when you are raising minor children, it is not the time to try to be their friend. It is not. Hopefully you get there. Hopefully you get there. Maybe a longer haul for some of us than others, but hopefully we all get there. This was a ton of fun, ladies. Oh, and I want both of you.
Oh my gosh.
I want both of you to ask your kids whether or not they think your parenting style is authoritarian, permissive, authoritative, or I know they're not going to say uninvolved. So those three.
No.
I need you to report
I kind of feel like we need a part 2 with just the kids on with you, Tracy.
Oh my God. No.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I'm bowing out.
I want you moderating that. Okay, let's just get my kids on. Oh my God,
all right,
Tracy,
this was
such
a fun way to spend the afternoon.
It was awesome. And Tanisha, so great meeting you.
You guys rock.
Nice to meet you too.
Oh.
Thank you.
You guys rock.
You too. Right back at you.
All right, ladies, we'll do it again soon.
Great.
Take care.
Sounds good. Okay, bye.